Rose Tan here, inspiring you to live the lifestyle that you want. Today we have Barber here. He's the famous worldwide spiritual teacher, also as my favorite astrologer. Oh my God.
That's because I'm her only astrologer.
Yeah, right. He's so humble, guys. You have no idea. Okay. So he has appeared in a documentary movie called 2012 Crossing Over, A New Beginning. And it's also featured in the IMDb. You gotta watch it. It's absolutely amazing, mind-blowing stuff. But tell us a little bit about it. Like, you know, what does it entail? Like, how is it such a worldwide topic?
Well, the film, as the title would imply, was made right before 2012. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who are maybe a little bit older than 12 years old, think back about as we were approaching 2012, there was all this propaganda that was being spewed out. That it was the end of the world, and the world was going to burn up or blow up, or asteroid was going to hit us, or the sun was going to burn us to a crisp. I don't know. It was everywhere, and we were basically saying in that film that wasn't going to happen, and we were right. Here we are. But I mean, but the point is that we were trying to show that there is a kind of a conscious, I don't know if you would want to call it plot or conspiracy, but to pump fear into the world, and I did talk some about astrology in there, and how that astrology did not show that the world was going to end or anything, that it was going to keep on going. But I was also saying that that these fear propaganda that was being pushed on us shouldn't work, and that we should learn to live in love rather than fear, because I think some people realize that if you can get people to live in fear, you can control them easier. Mm-hmm. And
just like the Matrix world. And
I was saying, like, if you work on yourself spiritually and you evolve, then fear and that sort of thing can't control you.
That's right.
Like there's a saying, an enlightened being plays with the world the way a child plays with a ball.
Wonderful.
And a fearful person is one who is always controlled and boxed in, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. How did your journey all begin in this spiritual field of interest?
Spirituality, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my own, I had interest in yoga and breath exercises, pranayama we call it. And I was in my early 20s, and I was doing I think what is called the fire breath, and really intensely. And I think maybe I was overdoing it a little bit, but I had what is known as a Kundalini awakening while I did that, and I had this bolt of light.
Wow.
It was like someone had taken an electrical cord and put it to my head, and it knocked me back on the bed. Thank goodness I was on the bed. And I went off into my father would have called it a coma, but it wasn't a coma. It was I was very conscious. It's not like when you have when an epileptic fit, you go unconscious of that. This was very conscious, and I saw all kinds of things, and had all sorts of experiences, and that sort of got the ball rolling, so to speak.
Wow.
And from that point on, I became a seeker, and I eventually met Muktananda, my guru in Siddha Yoga, 2 or 3 years after that. And
Wonderful.
That's
Wonderful.
how it started.
Cool. All right. How would you describe or explain what Shaktipat is to somebody who knows little about it or nothing about it? Like, how is one qualified to even perform and give a ritual?
That's a good question. Because there are a lot of people in the world these days who just decide they want to give Shaktipat. Now, Shaktipat is what I experienced while doing the breathing exercises. And sometimes your Kundalini can awaken just by spontaneous, like you don't necessarily have to attend a ritual.
Right.
But Shaktipat ritual is something that, as I was saying, some people in the world decide they want to do. And that's actually quite dangerous unless you have been chosen by a teacher and trained how to do it and then go out and do it, because you can end up taking on negative karmas from the people that you're touching. And I know people who've... I just got one thing wrong the first time I gave Shaktipat, after Muktananda trained me and chose me and trained me how to do it. And I was sick for a month after that. And so I would say it's probably more dangerous for someone who hasn't gone through the protocol than the people they're actually giving it to.
That is quite serious stuff.
Well, yeah, it's
quite intense too.
And I have known people who have just decided they wanted to give Shaktipat, and some really negative things happened to them, and I don't think it would have occurred if they had just waited until the right time.
So do they need to be qualified from a shamanism or shama, or a special teacher?
Yeah, shamanism's a different path. But shamanism is their protocol is very different, and their ceremonies are more based on plant medicine and things like that. Ours is based on, as you know, you've been to one of my ceremonies.
I've been to a few. I'm addicted.
And we just go around, we do some chanting, we do some sacred mantras. We give you some breathing exercises to do, and then we touch you like that. Yeah. You remember? And,
yes, got all these red marks on my head.
Oh yeah.
Part of the tribe.
Kumkum. Kumkum, that's called, and sacred ash.
Okay.
And a bit of Ganga water.
Yes.
And but the protocol, if you want to know what the procedure is you just spend time around a teacher for a while.
Wow.
And
to be mentored.
Just to have him check you out and to make sure that you're doing things right, and to make sure that you're just not going to be there a while and then run off, because a lot of people did run off. And then he chooses you, he picks you. You don't go up to him and say, "Oh, can I please give Shaktipat?" That's considered to be very bad form to do that. And rude.
Wow.
And so he picks you, and then he trains you, and then. But the funny part about it is when he asked me to do it, I didn't want to do it because.
How come?
I was afraid that I would go around and touch everybody, and nothing would happen.
Oh, or receive other people's bad karma.
And well, yes, and and nothing would happen, and I'd look like the village idiot. It was like.
Okay.
So, but I learned to have faith in it because my experience has shown me it has very little to do with me. It has to do with a force beyond this dimension that we live in that comes through.
Okay, awesome. Okay, moving on. On your Facebook page, you've been providing rituals at various locations worldwide. Love it. Like, how does this enhance or improve one's life or their belief?
So, I guess what you're saying is how does attending one of these rituals and having Kundalini awakening
what's the
advantage,
normal outcome?
Yeah.
What's the expected?
Okay, well, to be quite honest, not everybody that attends a ritual, not everybody will have their Kundalini awakened.
I remember when I first attended one of your sessions, I felt nothing, and I felt like so closed off.
Yeah.
I think I came in with a high expectation, like I'm gonna freak out, I'm gonna get into like that shaking mode, but I didn't. I just felt really calm and relaxed. I felt my first experience was just a deep calming meditation, and which was fabulous. But my second one, I actually felt a different sort of awakening, more like a vibration. But anyway, back to you.
But you said the first one you went to, there were people there that did go into the kriyas and the shaking.
He was sitting right in the corner there.
Yeah.
He was like profusely, and I was like, "Is he okay? But check on him."
And you were afraid that was going to happen to you.
Yes. Oh my god, I was freaking out because I'm thinking, is that what's going to happen to me too? Is this the norm? Come on.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
a funny story about that is that when I was in City Yoga, Muktananda said, if you don't have those shaking kriyas so much, they're called kriyas, and they can take a lot of different forms: laughing, crying. Some people get up and dance. Some people shake. Some breathe heavily. I was sort of proud because I had never had any of those, at least recently. By the time I met Muktananda, I met him 2 years after my Kundalini awoke. I didn't know him when my Kundalini awoke. But then I went to a retreat in California, and the whole place just went off. Like, people were laughing, people were crying, people were shaking, people were breathing heavily, and it was like someone had left the doors of the asylum open and people were walking around.
Yeah, that kind of freaked me out. That's what I was thinking.
And so I said, well, I'm not going to let this freak me out. I'm just going to see it as humorous. And so I started chuckling a little bit, and then I started laughing a little bit more. And then the next thing you know, I couldn't stop laughing. And so I was having kriyas. I had my, and those kriyas lasted for a couple of years. The shaking and so forth.
Really?
And then they just, as easily as they came on, they stopped.
Okay, all right.
But they do feel good when you have them.
On a high, kind of like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I better go get me some. Okay, what exactly is Kundalini awakening? That many people find that's a strange word, and it sounds weird. I mean, a lot of us are confused between the two differences of Kundalini and a spiritual awakening. What's the symptoms and level of intensity there?
Well, the symptoms of Kundalini awakening are we've just described some of those, but there are different examples. Sometimes it just means that you go into, you've never meditated before, but now all of a sudden you just go into deep states of thought-free state. That's known as samadhi. But there are a lot of different. Most people, the classic is that you feel this hot energy moving up your spine, and it goes through the chakras in a systematic order, and it doesn't happen overnight. This take up to 12 years, even 3 lifetimes for the Kundalini to complete its journey. But the symptoms of it is that your whole life totally transforms.
So not every lifetime you get to experience an awakening. Everybody's
different, like it awakes. Is Muktananda, our teacher, whose picture is right there.
Yep, I can see it.
He's, let me see, that one. He used to say, everybody's different. Some people will have the Kundalini awaken and they'll progress really rapidly, and it depends on their karmas. Is when they come in, their past, and other people will take really, really long time. My feeling has always been, what's the hurry?
What's the hurry? Yeah, everything's about divine timing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was like, if you're in a hurry to complete something, that in itself creates an obstacle,
like a roadblock.
And so I find that just relaxing and enjoying the journey, actually allowed it to happen much quicker than it would have otherwise.
That's so cool. Awesome. Okay.
But yeah, it changes your whole life.
I bet it does.
And people just say that they look back in their past and they say, oh yeah, it was that time when I had that Kundalini awakening that everything changed.
Wow.
And I have lots of people who will share stories like that with you, who've experienced that in our
I'd love to hear your stories and connect with them.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How is Shaktipat and Kundalini related in Tantra, and what is it exactly?
How is Shakti and Kundalini related in Tantra? Okay, well, it is true that in the Tantric, it's in the Tantric scriptures that Kundalini is talked about, not in the Vedic so much. So we hear about Kundalini particularly in 𝒂𝒊𝒄𝒆, which is a branch of Shaivite, non-dual Tantra. And the question was...
so how is Shaktipat and Kundalini related in Tantra?
Well, Shaktipat and Kundalini are awakening, or one and the same thing.
One and the same thing.
Okay. Kundalini is a force at the base of your spine. It's a coiled energy. In fact, the word means coiled energy, and it's dormant. It's like literally asleep.
Yeah.
And when Shaktipat occurs, there is an energy that comes into the room, which is the ritual we perform, that I feel it's an energy from another realm of consciousness. It's not an energy that you could describe in this physical world. And the sleeping Kundalini responds to that energy, and so if she's inundated with that energy enough, it's eventually she wakes up. Now, once they call it serpent energy because once it wakes, it starts moving through your body, and it starts cleaning and clearing all of your chakras. And I'd like to point out that, you mentioned, how's it related to Tantra? Well, Kundalini awakening is known about in many, many different cultures, not just Tantric or Hindu. There are African tribes that know about it. There are Eskimo tribes that know about it.
Right.
The Hopi Indians know about it. The Freemasons know about it. I mean, it's if it's a secret, it's not a very well kept one. and it is something that has emerged spontaneously all over the planet. It's not like they heard about it from somebody else and then adopted it.
It's not like a cultural secret society.
It was, I think it was Jung who went and found that this phenomenon existed worldwide.
Carl Jung?
Yeah, he called it, he did writings on it.
Oh, cool!
He talked about, they called it Kundalini psychosis.
Well, that explains a lot. That says a lot about it. Okay, what is it like for people to attend these workshops that focus on sexual practices, and what are they hoping to achieve?
Yeah, I guess you're pretty much referring to Neo Tantra, and original Tantra was not really focused on sex that much. The traditional Tantra or classical Tantra was more based on the end result, the final result, which is first learn to find samadhi within yourself, the thought-free state. 2, learn to stabilize yourself in that, return to that thought-free state as much as possible. Because it's within the thought-free state that self-recognition occurs. I think the word for that, I can never pronounce it, is 𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒂𝒕, something like that, which is the path of self-recognition. And so once you start to experience samadhi, or the thought-free state, it's only in that you discover your true self, as opposed to your ego self, which is what we're normally trained to identify with.
Driven by.
Yeah. Most people are driven by their ego. I was watching the Senate inquiries on television earlier the other day, and I would say, oh my God, what a mob of egos.
Wow.
We're just like, it looked very painful actually, and one of the things you learn about living in an ego-free state is that suffering tends to end.
Yeah.
You don't suffer so much anymore.
No.
You're happy.
You're lighter. You feel good. You feel alive.
And so it's in once you recognize your true self, then if you stay in that self long enough, eventually enlightenment occurs.
Oh, which is the next question I was going to ask you. So, so I've heard that you've disagreed with other teachers who combine Tantra together with other ideologies such as shamanism. Why is that?
Well, I don't disagree with them, but I just don't think it works as well. I think shamanism, for instance, is structured in a way that it's strong on its own. And you don't need to bring in this and that to it, because it's evolved over thousands of years and it's become powerful because it's learned to balance itself.
Right.
And if you bring in something like Tantra or some other philosophy or ideology,
just one second, Paul.
Yeah.
Go on.
If you bring in some other ideology, then it throws it out of balance. So like Tantra is like, I don't know if people know what a mobile is, but it's a piece of art that's got little different weights hanging off of it. And it's all perfectly balanced. And so if you brought in, say, another weight and put it over here, and that would be like bringing shamanism and Tantra together.
Right.
It throws the whole thing out of balance. It's learned to balance itself. It's evolved. Its evolution has balanced itself. So combining things together like that, I find weakens both philosophies, not just the one.
Interesting. So it's not like a yin-yang thing.
Well, it is yin-yang, like in the sense that a balance needs to be maintained.
Right.
And yeah.
Okay, great. So you touched on the topic of like the difference of neo-tantra and traditional tantra. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that topic?
Well, I won't go too long on it, but neo-tantra, as the name implies, is something that's come along in the last, my feeling is since the 1960s and the 70s. And even though I think there was scatterings of it prior to that, and their focus, the main difference is that traditional Tantra focuses on the final goal, which is self-inquiry, self-recognition, and enlightenment, and awakening Kundalini.
Wow.
And Neo-Tantra is more focused on improving your sex life and your relationships. And they try to say, oh yeah, but we're spiritual too. But then when you get in there and you start doing the exercises and everything, it's quite clear they're just there to have a good time, which is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But they're just there to have a good time, and what I call a quick fix.
Right.
And you feel
so
high.
you're not doing it right.
Yeah, you're high for a couple of days. You go whoa, 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 but then after a couple of days, you come back down and you're at square one again.
Right. So
Where traditional tantra has the technology to take you higher and keep you there.
to attain it.
Well, it creates as a foundation,
Right.
in which you maintain and sustain the higher level frequency that you've achieved.
Oh, wonderful.
And see, the whole idea is by doing the practices, and both Neo-Tantra and traditional Tantra have practices. Like in Neo-Tantra, it might be tantric sex with your partner, and in traditional Tantra, it might be pranayama or meditation, or it could be sex with your partner too.
Can it be on your own? Can it be for yourself?
Oh yeah, you can complete an entire tantric path as a celibate.
Right. There you go, guys. Very interesting. Okay, guys.
That's going to put everybody off wanting to do it now.
No, not at all. Not me.
I'm just saying it can be done. In fact, some of the greatest tantric masters of all time were celibates. My own primary guru, teacher, was Nityananda.
Oh,
Up
yes.
here, can you see his picture?
No, not
No, you can't
quite.
quite see it, but he's just up above Ganesh there. His picture, he was a lifelong celibate.
A lifelong.
Yeah, never had sex.
So a
his whole
virgin
life.
all his life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he would. Yeah. It's like they wouldn't say virgin though. They'd say a brahmachari.
Brahmachar. There you go, guys.
Brahmacharya.
Brahmacharya. Okay. But thank you so much for being here. Okay, guys. I'll leave any services or other information in the description box down there below. Up until next time, guys. Thank you for watching, and thank you again, Bard.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I'll see you at the next Shaktipat in 1 week.
You betcha. All right, guys. Mwah. Ciao.